In episode 3, Judy and Jen head to the oncologist, and it's actually Jen who's way more on edge than Judy. I mean, Judy's nervous, but Jen yelling at the nurse because it's taking so long until finally Jen gets a phone call that, thankfully for the nurse, pulls her away. It's Detective Perez. She needs to talk immediately, and the two meet up. Perez shows her what the FBI found, which is a chunk of wood in Steve's skull. Immediately, Jen knows that it's the tail to the bird. But when Perez asks, okay, where is this bird now? Jen has to reveal that she doesn't have it on her person, but she can get it, not to worry. Perez tells her that she needs to get it back and get rid of it immediately. The FBI agent that's on this case is named Moranis, and he's really, really good. It happens to be the same FBI agent that Judy went to deal with the Greek situation. But this whole situation, helping Jen out, all of that, has got Detective Perez very, very paranoid. Of course, the actual location with the bird is in the possession of Nick, who goes to give it back to Ben. Ben is dealing with a tough time. Not only is he going through the grieving process, but so is his mother, and she's going through a tough time as well. To make it worse for Ben, when he goes out in the garage, he sees the car that he knows now, hit and ran Judy and Jen. He also can't help but hear his brother yell at him that he was going to drink and drive, and how he was a loser. And now he's thinking that maybe Steve was onto something and maybe Steve was right. He snaps out of it, covers up the car, and that's when Nick shows up, and it gets Ben pretty skittish. Nick then explains why he's there, and he holds up the bird. And he also swears that it was broken when he found it, which Ben confirms, yeah, I know it was. Nick then has a conversation about Ben even being at the bar. How he looked, he's seen it before. He gives Ben his card and says, look, man, if you ever want to go to a meeting, just let me know. I've been where you are now. It never ends well, so just give me a call if you need help. Ben really appreciates it, and then Nick says, hey, I'm sorry what happened to your brother. I really wish I could help with the case, but they got me on this hit and run with Judy and Jen. It's unfortunate because Ben had finally gotten a little bit comfortable, but now he's back to being on edge. He asks Nick, you have any leads? And Nick says, no car, no crime. He then wraps up the conversation and says, all right, man, just take care of yourself. A little while later, Judy leaves the doctor's office. She went through her scans. She even bought a new necklace from the gift shop, but she doesn't find out the results until later that day. She calls up Jen and asks her what happened with Perez, and Jen fills her in. When Judy finds out that Moranis is on the case, she's actually excited about it. She thinks he's a great guy, even though Jen gets pretty concerned about it. Jen then hangs up the phone and heads over to Ben's place. Ben, though, isn't there. His mom is. Even though Jen is looking for Ben, she did bring ice cream for Eileen to make her feel better. And when Jen sees the state of Eileen, she knows that she really needs it. So even with Ben not there, she decides to head in and just spend some time with her. Jen knows what it's like to grieve someone you love that's gone too soon. So she gives Eileen some tips and just seems like a friend to her. As Jen cheers up Eileen, Judy goes and heads to find Glenn. She has an idea of where he'll be. He stays at the same motel. Sure enough, that's where he is. They quickly get caught up on their personal lives, but the whole time, Judy is just doing reconnaissance trying to find out what Glenn might know. The excuse that she uses for even being there is that she thinks she's being followed. While she tries to come up with a story on this fake person who's following her, she does see the FBI folder of the Steve Woods case. She then starts to fish, telling Glenn Nick's theory that it's all connected. What happened to Steve, what happened to her. But putting this theory in Glenn's head was a smart move because he starts to think about it. He doesn't quite understand why the Greeks would come after Judy, but it is something he hadn't considered before. Even though Glenn is on the case, it's not something that either Nick or Detective Perez can just forget. Perez has offered to be the FBI Laguna liaison on the case, so she's obtained the autopsy report. She doesn't really want to show it to Nick, but it'd be fishy if she didn't. So she has to show Nick what she's got, which is the piece of wood that was found in Steve's skull. Luckily, Nick has no idea what it is either. But if he goes to any home goods store or hobby store, he's going to have an easy time finding it because that bird is readily available. So much so that Ben wants to fix it. So he goes and finds a bunch of matching birds at a store so that he can cut off one tail and replace it. The thing is, Ben doesn't know how to actually do any of that. He's not very crafty. So he goes and interrupts Judy, who is counting some more of her Steve money, and he asks her for help. Judy's pretty relieved that Ben just wanted her to fix it and didn't ask any more questions. But before he leaves, Ben does have one question. How's Jen doing? And Judy fills him in on the fact that it's just a really tough time right now. Jen, though, is nowhere to be found because she's gone to drive Henry to his Holy Harmonies practice. And a little while later, that's exactly where Ben finds her. Along with Judy's help, he was able to fix the bird and he wants to give it back to Henry. He also wants to thank Jen because whatever she said to his mom really helped. She finally showered and she seems to be doing better, so he really appreciates that. The fact, though, that Jen has the bird back in her possession is a big relief. I wish I could say the same thing about Judy. Because as Jen is getting the bird back, Judy is getting the phone call from the oncologist that lets her know that they did, in fact, find cancer. But typical Judy Hale, she feels bad for the person who has to deliver the news and not herself. When Jen returns home, she finds Judy drinking some wine, and she thanks her because she shows her the bird that she has. The conversation gets pretty emotional, though, because Jen gets really upset at the thought of losing Judy. She starts telling her that she wouldn't be able to forgive herself if Judy actually got sick because she would blame herself. With Jen crying in front of her, Judy can't bring herself to tell her the news, so she lies, telling her, "You have nothing to worry about. I'm healthy. It came back clean." That's a big relief to Jen. They both enjoy some wine, and then they take care of that bird, burning it and getting rid of the ashes. As Jen is throwing out the ashes, though, she notices a suspicious car that's parked down the block with somebody in it. She thinks about what Perez was telling her about being tailed. She does find it fishy. She probably should, because Glenn's in that car, although Jen can't see him. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.